Hi, welcome to Autobahn. Today we're going to be testing the Series 2 Holden Captiva 7. We've come to a very wet, wild and windy Wellington, and we're going to test this all-wheel drive motor car and see whether she can actually handle the four-wheel drive stuff. The second Series Captiva's got a change in engine, and the one we're test driving today is the 3 litre V6 SIDI engine. I have to say I found the engine pretty responsive, and the engine allows you to be able to be quite progressive as you push through the power. And then I'm really pleased that they've kept the diesel option, but I probably want to have a couple of diesel options. The one that we've been given is a 2.2, and that'll be enough for your average Joe. I just guess the question I would have is if I'm towing a really large boat or something quite heavy, whether that 2.2 litres is really going to give me the grunt that I need to get up and down New Zealand's hills, and in particular deal with the kind of terrain that we've been dealing with today. We've got a nice light steering, but she gets pointed in the right direction, so there's no worrying about when you point the nose in the front if she's going to actually follow through with the tail. Over the course of the day that we've had her, I have to say I've been very impressed with the way that the car's been able to deal with the bumps and lumps, and in particular been very impressed about the way that she's coped with a number of different surfaces, right through from rough stones to gravel through to mud and grit. I think the only thing that I have been disappointed with in the car is that possibly it could have done with a little bit more ground clearance. I think the other thing that's been good in this car is the level of ride comfort's been really good. The level of road noise has been really low, and she seems to enjoy being driven. I certainly know that I've had a few smiles on my face behind the wheel as we've been ploughing up and down these furrowed 4x4 tracks here in Red Rocks in Wellington. But I don't know whether I'd really want to give her too much grief. She's got too much fairing down the bottom and a little bit too much plastic and chrome to be able to really give a good solid 4x4 off-road experience. But certainly I wouldn't lose too much sleep if I had to take her for off-road any time in its lifetime. So one of the things we're going to be testing today is how family friendly the new Series 2 Captiva is. It's marketed as a 5-seater. It does come with 2 extra seats at the back that can be used for occasional times when you have extra people over. So my daughter and I are going to test this out today, so hey, let's find out how family friendly it is. No problem getting the kids and the dog and everything in and out. However, when we put these 2 back seats down, is that the same story? So look, inside it's quite roomy, it's not too bad, plenty of height here, although I'm only 5'7", so that's never going to be a problem for me. But looking at it, could you fit 4 or maybe 5 adults and a couple of kids in? Well, hey, I've got my little Lipper in the back, let's see what she thinks. And she's actually found it pretty easy as well, so we've got a little space for her feet to go. So it's all important that we've got enough space to be able to allow the children to get in and out of the car really easily. And I have to say that the mechanism was pretty good, pretty intuitive and not too difficult to use. However, I would probably question how easy that would be to use if you actually had kids running around. I'm lucky mine's 11 and is under tight control. So one of the key things about this car is its space. As you can see, we've already got lots of space for children and for adults. Now we're going to try and see what's it like inside in the boot. Okay, well, with the seats forward, you've actually still got a little bit of room, which is no bad thing, despite the fact that all the seats are taking up the space. And look how easy it is to be able to actually turn it into a booted car. How easy is that? Fantastic. The engines have been changed and upgraded completely, so this one's now got a 3 litre V6, which is an upgrade from a 2.4 litre in the previous version. So the overall handling of the Captiva has actually been surprisingly good. I came with an open mind, but did think that the car would get stuck on some of the more gravelly or harder tracks that we put her on. I mean, she feels like she's a bit of a driver's car. You like to throw her into a corner and you know that she's going to come out of it without any trouble whatsoever. She doesn't feel like she's a big car. She feels quite light and nimble on her feet, and probably more down the car end of the scale rather than the SUV 4x4 end of the scale, which I'm pretty sure is what Holden will be targeting. So the on-road performance has actually been something that you'd want to judge this car in. Most of the time it's going to be on-road rather than off, and I think the petrol stats have been extremely good. We've got it in eco mode, and we've had it in eco mode the entire day. Eco mode's only available on the automatic version of the car. For the petrol manual, there's no eco mode, but it's been pretty good. It's given us the grunt when we wanted it, like now. We're up to 6,000 revs. The car itself got a low road noise, lots of comfort, and I'd say that either passenger or driver would be pretty happy after a good few hours behind the wheel here. It's certainly not been tiring for me over the course of the day, and we've driven it over pretty much every single kind of service that you can imagine. The 7 seats was extremely good, and I was impressed that even though normally 7-seaters in this kind of capacity have no legroom in the back, there was still a little bit of the legroom for somebody like a teenager. Downsides, I have to say, I thought the entertainment system was pretty bad. I didn't like the sound system. I think in a car of $55,000 you should probably get a decent sound system that's really going to let you crank it up when you want to, but also allow you to hear the nuances of Bach or Schubert, should that be your thing. The stereo system looks old and outdated, even though it's got a little area for MP3 or auxiliary sounds to be put in. That itself hasn't been well thought out. The USB's in the center well, and yet the auxiliary in is up by the controls. The sat nav when we first got in was interesting, very basic, didn't give us a lot of chance to really work out where our surroundings were, and then even when you zoomed in you found that it really was so close to being in such real time that you almost knew exactly where you were before you were there. So that's a bit disappointing. The use of the wash wipe, the front and rear wipers, was actually not very good. It wasn't very easy to understand. I struggled to be able to turn the rear one on, and then when it was on I struggled to turn it off, which is never a good thing. I'm also not a big fan of the parking brake that they put on. I like the idea of being able to put on a handbrake without having to worry about whether I need to push the button forwards or pull the button backwards. That's not something that's intuitive. However, these are small, tiny little things. Would they be enough to make me not buy the car? Chances are no. So it's all good on the whole. If I gave it a mark out of 10, the car's probably a 6.5, maybe a 7, but certainly no more. I think if you're going to get into that 8 and 9 area, the car itself probably needs to have more grunt at the lower end, and also be able to deal with a slightly more rugged 4x4 terrain. Wow. So that's the Holden Captiva 2. Well, I've got to say that the Series 2 is much better than the Series 1. I think a great improvement. The things I enjoyed the most were the actual sturdiness of the car. I think the suspension is good. I think the engine is good. And most importantly, I think that for a family car that you can use pretty much anywhere, well, we've moved it off-road today and we know she's very comfortable on the road. So thanks very much and see you next time. Bye-bye.